What is up, guys? I'm George Mossey. This is the Family Chantel Season 4, Episode 5 podcast recap. Grab something to drink, grab a snack. Let's recap something you may have missed on this episode of the Family Chantel. This episode is called Unusual and Highly Suspect, and for good reason. 3 weeks after returning from Mexico, Winter is still not on solid food. So on a shopping trip to find her protein in liquid form, we find out that she is completely chicken broth out. I don't blame you, Winter. At some point, some people want to eat something other than chicken broth. In other news, Winter does tell us that she is now dating someone new. That's right, breaking news. Mossey is no longer a part of Winter's life. After asking her to buy him a new phone, she has decided to cut ties with Mossey and is actually now dating a new guy named Chris. So now that she's dating, Chantel has given Winter a checklist. When it comes to finding a new man, there's a checklist that Chantel lives by. So number one, does he have a uniform? And she's not talking about a prison uniform, guys. Chantel is talking about a uniform, meaning he has a job, a decent career, something to fall back on. And another thing to stress to Winter is looks mean nothing. Just because you find someone who looks good does not mean they are good for you. And I actually agree with Chantel 100%. Looks don't ever bring anything positive to the relationship. It's a lustful thing. Getting to know a person and their personality is going to be the best way to know you're with the right person. Beautiful people can have bad, ugly habits. Winter also informs us that just because she's out here in the dating pool does not mean that she is out here sleeping with anyone. She's actually saving her cookies for the right person that she actually loves. We love you, Winter, and we know you're gonna find the right guy for you. Let's head back to the Dominican Republic, where Alejandro has randomly shown up at Nicole's job and demands to talk to her and actually refuses to leave. Nicole has to remind Alejandro the reason why they're not together. He was texting a girl from Texas and even invited this girl to New York to see him. Alejandro feels that they broke up because of outside interference between Pedro and her mom, Lydia. Nicole sees it differently. She sees it as a trust issue and they couldn't overcome their issues, and she's not really interested in working it out or even having a single conversation with Alejandro. In fact, the smell of Alejandro's cologne makes Nicole so sick, she literally throws up at the sight of him. So Alejandro is a very persistent person. So instead of giving up and hopping back on the first plane to New York, he hops on Instagram and he reaches out to Karima, who we all know is Nicole's best friend, literally since they were children. And he's asked her to give him advice on what's the best way to get back in Nicole's good graces. Although Karima doesn't believe Alejandro is the guy for Nicole, she has a good heart and she does promise to give a good word to Nicole for him and see if that can't be something they can work on. Although it was a good try, Nicole has no interest in hearing what Karima has to say about Alejandro. Nicole has shut down completely and has not opened any communication with Alejandro whatsoever. Pedro has informed us that he and Antonella from work have become really close. We've seen in previous episodes that they ride to eat together and they do things together for work and outside of work as well, such as going out for drinks and doing things like that. But we find out that Antonella's car is leaking antifreeze and Pedro is now giving her rides home pretty late at night. He actually admits that he avoids going home and waits until Chantel is asleep before he arrives, that way that he can avoid fighting and their relationship issues. Pedro lets us know that he feels that Chantel is lazy. He feels that she works 3 12-hour shifts, and on the 4th day, Chantel tells us that she likes to rest. After working 36 hours in 3 days, it's very understandable that someone would want to take a full day and rest. But Pedro feels that she literally sits around the house, doesn't clean, doesn't cook, and doesn't do anything. This huge fight leads to Chantel firing back and letting Pedro know that the same people that he claims to be nothing like and strives to be nothing like is exactly who he is, meaning his family, especially his father. And Chantel actually reacts by telling Pedro that he is exactly like his father. And we all know Pedro has strived his entire life to be nothing like his father. So those are literally fighting words and a dagger to the heart to tell someone who has worked so hard to not be that person. We also find out that Pedro came home one night with a woman's name taped to his keychain, which Chantel feels that it could have been a woman at a bar giving him her phone number or name, but Pedro claims that it was merely a game that he plays at work, and Antonella merely placed her name on his keys as a joke. We don't know what exactly is going on. It is a little suspect. After calling Chantel lazy, Chantel decides to exit stage left, take a drive, clear her head, and she ends up at River's house. So River is a little surprised because Chantel doesn't randomly show up at his house, and she doesn't really talk to him about personal issues, which doesn't change when she arrives at his house. He asks her what's going on, and of course, in true Chantel fashion, there is absolutely nothing that she gives him to hint of what's going on in their life. All she says is, he wants me to clean, and I said no. And everyone knows, River, Winter, Miss Karen, everyone knows that the issue is much deeper than cleaning a house. River actually assumes that Pedro kicked Chantel out of the house, and that's why she's sleeping on his couch. And with no information given to him from Chantel, he has no idea what's really going on. Out of genuine concern for his sister, River has to involve Mama Bear, Miss Karen, and let her know that there is trouble in paradise. So he goes over to his parents' house and lets them know that Chantel was actually sleeping at his house, and there is a lot of issues going on with them in their lives, in their relationship. She seemed exhausted and she refused to talk about what was going on. Now, we both know that Pedro and River have had pretty rocky relationship in the past, but that has been resolved and they get along really well. River decides that it's about time to go and pay Pedro a visit and get a first-hand account of what's actually going on behind closed doors and see if there's anything that he can find out that might help them in their relationship. In true Mama Bear fashion, Miss Karen decides to tag along in her karate outfit and just says if there's anyone that needs to be put in their place and handled, she will be there to do just that. We won't know exactly what happens during the interrogation of Pedro. We'll have to wait and see what happens next week. Also next week, we will see a date between Winter and her new boo, Chris, and how that's going, so I can't wait to see that. Also, the breaking news that came out just today is that Chantel and Pedro have filed for divorce. Now, this was reported on multiple news sites. I don't know why this has taken place, but this season, a lot of people have felt there were fabricated issues, but this has been a very serious issue, as you can see, and I am sending my thoughts and prayers to Chantel and Pedro at this time, and hopefully they can find a way to mend through this. And if divorce is the option for them, I wish happiness and love for them both. All right, guys, that's what happened on this episode of The Family Chantel on season 4. This is episode 5 of the podcast recap. I am your host, George Mossey. Make sure you're watching The Family Chantel every Monday night and live tweeting with me so we can react live together. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you all really soon.